Hello and welcome back to Spa for the second part in my sort of video diary thing here from the 24-hour race that I'll be doing in this C1 as part of the C1 Racing Club's championship here at the legendary Belgian circuit. I've just done qualifying and that went pretty well. It was exciting. The car is demanding to drive in a weird way. It's not fast, but you have to be quite assertive with it. It does move around, it's quite twitchy, very short wheelbase, not a lot of power, not a lot of grip. So you have to drive it properly. So it's cheap thrills, I think is probably the way to describe it. I thought I'd expand on that and maybe just talk around exactly what goes into building one of these cars, because the whole point of this series is that it's meant to be affordable. So let's just have a look at exactly what these racing C1s are all about. So the modifications are meant to be pretty minimal to keep it cheap, and over and above the cost of the car, it costs about £2.5 grand. So cars in the classifieds, you'll find them from, well, a few £100 upwards really, so maybe about £1,000. The club recommend that you start with one that has done fewer than 100,000 miles, just because the engines will be a little bit tighter and it really isn't worth your bother saving a little bit of money on the purchase price. So if you're going to do it, find one that's got fewer than 100,000 miles on the clock. You want the petrol one, obviously, with the mighty 68 horsepower in it, that you pretty much leave alone. You leave the gearbox alone. You buy the club suspension kit, which is about 680 quid, I think. That's a kind of an official certified package. And it's got lowering springs, which lower the ride height by 35mm. You can have an optional Bilstein damper kit, which is another 900 quid or so if you want to go that far, but the basic suspension kit is one of the mandatory items. The cars run control Nankang tyres, which have got a little bit of tread shaved off, but they are cheap as well, obviously. Have a look inside at some of the modifications here. So obviously all the usual stuff. The roll cage costs 700 quid. Seats and all that kind of thing, that adds a little bit of money as well. You can carry those over from other cars too. So as you can see, the whole thing is about being as affordable as possible. And just chatting with one of the organisers of the series, he told me he reckons you could do feasibly a full season. He costed it all out, and he reckoned you could do a full season of racing for about 12 grand, maybe a little bit more. Share that between 4 of you or so, and all of a sudden you've got a very, very cheap way to go racing. And that's really what this is all about. And also what attracts people who can afford to do much glitzier racing, apparently, because they're very careful about how they run it. It's a very gentlemanly series. They've got a very, they keep driving standards closely monitored. They make sure everybody's driving properly, not being idiots. The cars are very tightly controlled, so they're very hot on making sure everybody's at the right weight and there aren't any sneaky mods going on. So it's very fair, it's very competitive, and it's very cheap. So even if you could afford to go racing in a faster and more expensive, more glamorous car, there is an attraction in the C1 racing just because it's pure racing. There's no none of the kind of extra stuff on top. It's just about a load of good friends having a really close race on an epic track like Spa-Francorchamps. Frankly, I'm quite tempted to hit the classifieds now myself.